And welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we're doing sort of a part 2 to a video we did recently. We did our homemade fried chicken recipe. This is going to be very similar to that, except we're going to be cooking it sous vide. It's a little bit easier overall, takes more time, but it's less work, although you do need some specialized equipment to do the sous vide. But we're going to get going and start with our ingredients. So we're using some chicken thighs. Again, we're using bone-in, skin-on. Some salt. Some buttermilk. Some breadcrumbs, and some flour, of course, for the breading. And we're also going to be using a little bit of some fresh herbs that we have here. So we've got some thyme, rosemary, and marjoram. And those are going to go into the chicken as it's being cooked sous vide. So we're going to start off with our fresh herbs. So we just want to bruise them a little bit. We don't want to rip them apart or anything. We're just going to give them a little squeeze, a little bend to make sure some of the those nice oils come out. And then we're going to put our chicken in on top of that. And what we want to do is we are going to give these a good coating of salt. And what this is going to do is basically give it a very light, quick cure. So this is going to make sure that they remain pretty moist while they're going through the cooking process. It's also going to provide some flavor and seasoning. It's also going to help some of those aromatic oils. The flavor is going to get pushed into the chicken. So make sure they all have a pretty even, good coating of the salt on there, and that's going to help these get really, really delicious and stay really nice and moist all the way through this whole process. So then we're going to place everything into our vacuum bag. So we're going to be sous videing these, but not right away. We're going to let these sit and cure overnight. You can even freeze them in the vacuum bag if you like, however you want to store these, or they can just live, if you want to do them the next day, they can just live in your fridge overnight. And what we're going to try and do is make sure that they are all on one layer. You don't want them to be a big like wad of chicken. You don't want them to be all clumped together. You want them to be sort of flat in a pretty thin layer so that they will cook nice and evenly when they're in the sous vide. Also, so they will cook faster. It also helps for everything to be on one level when you're sealing your bags. And I mean, it helps if they take up less space in your fridge as well. So we're just going to make sure that these are all on the same layer, and we want to make sure they have some good contact with those fresh spices, those fresh herbs, so that just infuses that beautiful flavor into the chicken. So once we're done, we're going to unfold. Always make sure when you're packing these vacuum bags that you give yourself a little margin at the top, that you fold it over so that when you're going to seal them, there's not any chance that there's going to be any fat or anything on the part that you want to seal, because it will interfere with getting that seal done. So we're just going to pop these into our little vacuum sealer here, make sure that it's in the right place. And then that's just going to take all of the air out of that bag and make sure that everything's packed together. It's going to make sure that we have really great contact with the herbs and the chicken, and it's going to make it super easy to cook later. So you can see here, pretty much all the air has been removed. Everything's nice and flat and is kept nicely in place there. Now we're going to put these in the fridge overnight, as I said. Again, if you prefer, you can also freeze these and use them a little bit later. Just make sure that they're back to about room temperature before you try and drop them into your sous vide water. So there we go. Seal is done. And then the next day, these are going to go into sous vide. So for dark meat like thighs, we're going to do these for about 3 hours at 155 Fahrenheit. All the the cooking times and everything are going to be in the description below. So that's going to sit in there and do its thing. We're going to let that cook until it's all the way done. Once it is done, we are going to take out the chicken. We see we've got these in a cooler. And we've got a little sort of makeshift styrofoam lid there just to make sure that the temperature stays the same. It makes it very, very efficient. Now don't reach in there with your hand. That water is extremely hot. So we've got some tongs. Just going to pull that out. You can see a lot of sort of juices rendered from the chicken. So that's a combination of just the juices from the meat as well as some of the fat is rendered. And it's got that great color because of some of the herbs in there have sort of infused it. So So we're going to cut that open and we're going to get ready for frying. So the nice thing about the sous vide method is these are cooked all the way through. They are completely cooked all the way through. All we have to do is cook them, get them in the oil with our breading, and make sure that they have a nice coating. You don't have to worry about these being cooked all the way through after they hit the oil, because they are done. They don't need any more cooking. They're beautiful and moist. They're at exactly the right doneness that we want. So all we need to do is bread and put them into the hot oil, and they're set to go. So we're going to start by dredging in the flour, as you saw there. From there, they're going to go into the buttermilk. Now we're using kefir here, whatever you prefer to use. And from there, they're going to go into your breadcrumbs. Now, this is a combination of panko and some coconut in there as well. We wanted to try something a little different. You can always do different things with your fried chicken, whatever you like. There's lots of different ways to make it more interesting or different. You can use crushed crackers. You can use crushed chips, breakfast cereal. They're all possible. So whatever you like to use. And from there, we're just going to put that into some really, really hot oil, and it's not going to be in there for very long, honestly. We just need it to get the right color. We don't need to worry about how fast the outside cooked in comparison to the inside, because the inside's done. They are cooked all the way through. They are ready to go. So once we've got the color we want on the outside, that's it. They're done. That's all we need to do as far as getting these fried. So once you've got that nice crispy golden outside and the flour is cooked all the way through, you don't need to cook these anymore. They don't need to go into the oven or anything like that. So you take them out of the oil. You do want to give them a little sprinkle of salt as soon as they come out of the oil, just for seasoning. So there we go. Those are all set to go. Now the coconut did darken a little bit faster than we thought, but it came out really, really delicious, and we're just going to show you the inside here. If you don't manage to accidentally cut right into the bone portion of your chicken. And you can see all the way through, beautiful and moist. It's a little bit, it's got that nice pink color in the middle. It's cooked all the way through. It is done. Because it's been held at the proper cooking temperature for a long, long time. So everything is done in there, and it's going to stay nice and juicy. Absolutely perfect fried chicken. Super easy method, and that's it. We hope you'll give this a try if you do have a sous vide, an immersion circulator or a sous vide machine, because it does work extremely well. It's super, super easy and makes a delicious result every time. So if you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. And remember to love your food.